So you might already know that Burger King published a few games for the Xbox back in 2006. While there are McDonald's licensed games on various consoles, the franchise never really published any of them. But last week, McDonald's released a Game Boy title based on Grimace, or at least it looks like a Game Boy game. So what exactly is this, and does this run on actual hardware? Well, let's take a look. What's going on, guys? It's Podrez coming at you with another video. Well, we're going to be talking about McDonald's today. So if you haven't already, feel free to join our Discord server. I was literally ranking breakfast cereal in there a few days ago. We're having a good time. If you'd like, the URL is discord.podrez.net or just click on the link in the description. Also, if you see that button right there that says subscribe, feel free to hit it. Might be fun. It's only a tiny little thing, but it helps the channel grow. Anyway, let's have some fun. So the McDonald's franchise is no stranger to video games. We'll take a look at a few of the titles. Here's Donaldland on the Famicom. This one was only released in Japan. The premise is that your friends have been captured and you must save them. You play as Ronald McDonald and it's a basic platformer. You just walk to the right and you defeat the boss at the end. Your attack are these exploding apples that you can also use as a platform. In some levels, you're required to use your own apples to migrate past bottomless pits. I'm not a big fan of the graphics. Your character doesn't really look like Ronald McDonald, and in general, the art style they chose for this game looks very primitive. The controls are honestly horrible. You can only shoot your apple in this awkward arc, and there's no way to shoot straight ahead. So this makes it very difficult to hit your targets. Your apples can also get stuck in the status bar. That's just bad programming, honestly. Your character is also very slippery, and it's easy to fall in the bottomless pits. They did put the McDonald's license to good use, thankfully. A majority of the McDonald's characters make an appearance here, and you can even purchase burgers and fries in between stages. The music in this game is also fantastic. So overall, being able to play as Ronald McDonald in a platformer is a cool concept, but the bad controls really hurt this one. While Japan got Donaldland, the US would receive a completely different McDonald's game, MC Kids. The premise is that the Hamburglar stole Ronald McDonald's magic bag, and you must help get it back. Ronald McDonald's sprite looks much better, but you don't play as him in this one. Instead, you play as this brand new character. Honestly, I think it would have been better if you played as Ronald McDonald or another character in the McDonald's universe. This title is more like what I pictured a McDonald's game to be. A fun, floaty platformer that's more like Super Mario Bros. 3. The graphics are more colorful and cartoony, just like the McDonald's universe. The game has some cool mechanics like walking upside down and blocks that bounce you to a different section of the level. It's almost like you're in a McDonald's play place. Remember those? I sure do. So this game is way better than the other one, but there's still some problems. For one, the level design is not super great. It's hard to tell where the bottomless pits are, and sometimes you have no choice but to guess. Secondly, while the graphics are nice, there's an overabundance of blue. And finally, the music gets very annoying quickly. But despite the shortcomings, this is very playable and it feels more like a McDonald's game. Moving over to the Genesis, we have Global Gladiators. This one was made by the same developers as MC Kids, Virgin Games. I really don't like the title though. How would you know this is a McDonald's game just by looking at it? Once again, you're playing as a kid. I still think this is a bad idea. Why not have Ronald McDonald be the protagonist? So far, the Famicom version is the only one that got it right. So in this one, you have a gun that shoots slime, and you're supposed to collect a certain amount of golden arcs to advance to the next level. The controls are very nice, I gotta admit. You can aim in multiple directions, and you can adjust the camera by pressing up or down on the D-pad, which is something that the predecessor, MC Kids, really needed. Honestly, this is a decent title, but it doesn't feel like a McDonald's game. There's hardly any references to the franchise except for Ronald McDonald at the end of each stage. The graphics are nice, but it doesn't capture the McDonald's environment. Does this look like a McDonald's game to you? But if there's one McDonald's game that's worth checking out, it's definitely McDonald's Treasureland Adventure. The premise in this one is that Ronald McDonald discovers a piece of the treasure map, and he must go from level to level to find the other pieces so he can locate the treasure. Here, you actually play as Ronald McDonald, and the graphics are bright, colorful, and cartoony. So finally, we have a game where you're playing as the correct character in the correct environment. They finally got it right. As Ronald, you can shoot magic and kill enemies, and you can grab on the hooks to reach higher platforms. Because the game was made by Treasure, who also made Dynamite Headdy and Alien Soldier, we see some really cool effects here. They really knew how to program for the Genesis, and this game really shows that. The game isn't perfect though, the controls could use a little bit of work. It would have been cool if you could shoot your magic in more than 2 directions. And even though you're playing as Ronald McDonald and the graphics are colorful, there's still not a lot of McDonald's references. Like, who are these ballerina dancers? But overall, this is the best McDonald's game by far. So that was just a quick overview of these games. While these titles were all licensed by them, none of them were actually published by McDonald's. However, 20 years later, we would receive a very interesting surprise. So, on June 12th, a little over a week after the release of this video, McDonald's released a brand new meal commemorating Grimace's birthday. You can get a Big Mac, medium fry, and Grimace-themed milkshake. Kinda weird that they're celebrating his 52nd birthday, I mean, why that number? But on top of this meal, we would receive a very surprising release. McDonald's published a 90s-style website that features a new game starring Grimace. The game is modeled to look like the Game Boy Color game, and when you play it on your phone, the interface looks exactly like a Game Boy. Let's check it out. So the premise is that Grimace is hosting his birthday party, but all of his friends are missing. He must locate them, and on the way, collect as many purple milkshakes as possible. I guess the ice cream machine must have broke at his local McDonald's. In the first 2 stages, you're on a skateboard and you must grind on railings. You're supposed to collect as many milkshakes as possible, but you're not required to collect them all. There's some enemies in this game, but they just temporarily stun you if you make contact with them. The only way you can die is by either running out of time or falling down a bottomless pit in the later stages. The game is not meant to be super challenging. You have unlimited lives, you can try as many times as you want, and you even have the option to skip the level. In stages 2 and 3, you're on foot and now you have to worry about bottomless pits, but the goal is the same: collect the milkshakes and make it to the end of the level before the time runs out. In stage 4, you can float using a bubble in order to collect hard to reach milkshakes. Once you complete stage 4, you get an ending screen and the credits play. So it's a short game, but that's perfectly acceptable considering this is completely free to play. This wasn't just a quick job, it actually looks like a professionally made game that could have came out in the 90s. The artwork looks really nice, the controls are very responsive, and the game is actually pretty fun. They did a great job making the game look like a real Game Boy Color game. Or is it a Game Boy Color game? Well, someone was able to extract the ROM file, so let's check it out. Alright, I have the Mr. FPGA pulled up right now. This is the ROM, so let's try it. Yup, it works. This is honestly really cool to see. The game was developed by a company called Cruel Toys, who has experience with homebrew Game Boy titles. For Grimace's birthday, they utilized a program called GB Studio, which is a game creator tool that makes development easier on the Game Boy. They could have just made some Flash game that looked like a Game Boy title, but instead, they went the extra mile, and I appreciate that. Although there are a few McDonald's themed games, none of them were ever published by them. This would change, however, with a surprising new release. McDonald's and Cruel Toys would team up and release a new Game Boy Color game starring Grimace. Even though it's a short game, it's a decent, well-polished platformer with some variety. But they didn't just make a game that looked like a Game Boy Color title, it actually works on real hardware. It's really cool that Cruel Toys and McDonald's worked together to make a real Game Boy Color game that's completely free to play. They didn't have to go through all the trouble, but they did, and I'm loving it. Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, hit that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the subscribe button for more content. Both of these things really help the channel grow. If you have anything to share, feel free to leave a comment. I read every single comment on this channel, and I'm pretty good at replying back. Anyway, have a good one.